Right, so it's 5 minutes past. Thanks everyone for joining our session today on relationship with your PhD supervisors. From the registrations, seem like all of us, I think we are PhD students. And today we have with us Dr. Abdullahi Ahmed, who is a PhD student. Sorry, who is the PhD supervisor? No pressure. So he's a PhD supervisor that has supervised various PhD students and has also been an external examiner and internal examiner. And he is currently an associate professor of building services and digital engineering at Coventry University, and has been like with over 18 years of experience. And we also have with us Dr. Adam, who recently completed his PhD in petroleum engineering at the University of Aberdeen. I believe he has, it's still fresh, right? The memories about
Yes.
with his supervisor. Yeah, and during his PhD, Adam was a tutor for masters and undergraduate students. And today, Dr. Abdullah and Adam will share some of their experiences and advise us on how we can work better with our PhD supervisors. Hello, Zainab. Hello, thanks for joining. Right. So, as we know, like PhD, one of the first people we meet when we start our PhD, and the people and the person or people we work with throughout our PhD journey are our supervisors. So I believe having that good relationship with your supervisor will make your journey easier. I can like it's a tough journey, as it can be a tough journey, but having that relationship, there are ways you can actually make it easier for yourself, and having that person, having that good relationship with that very important person, I think is critical. So I'm going to open the floor with few questions for our guests, Dr. Abdullah and Dr. Adam, and then I'm going to open the chat section for any questions you have for our guest today. So I am going to start with Dr. Abdullahi, and before I start, can I ask if there is anyone that has not started their PhD journey yet? Can I have any comments in the chat section? Do we have anyone that is planning to start a PhD but hasn't started yet? Anyone? Right, I believe nope. Okay. I am right. So we have Ibrahim here that is just about starting his PhD. Right. So the first question to Dr. Abdullah is what three main qualities do you look for when selecting a candidate for a PhD program? And one of the quick one I would like to add to that question is that quality is important also for people that are already enrolled in their PhD, considering that's what you would like to see them be during their PhD journey. So what three main qualities do you look for when selecting a candidate?
Okay, thank you, Khalifa, and thank you everyone for joining. It is one of those challenging questions, but when you look back, at the number of supervisions that you've made and the interactions that you have with PhD students, some things begin to take shape in terms of the key attributes of a good student. And I think one is that, for me, for somebody who wants to start a PhD, is that clarity of purpose. That somebody who wants to join and start a PhD knows exactly what they want to get out of it, and and they have some plans in mind. I know a lot of people sometimes start a PhD and then started scrambling for, well, how am I going to do it? What do I really want out of it? You know, do you have a topic that I can work on? So that automatically puts you in a very put a student in a very difficult situation, because it means that you're most likely going to be influenced in terms of the core of your PhD and the core direction of your PhD, and that begins to cause some friction for you in your mind as to what you want to achieve at the end of the PhD. So having that clarity of purpose for me is first and most important. That people clearly understand what the implication of doing it, what it entails. So the early conversations should be questions from PhD students, should be questions around what should I expect, what sort of planning should I have? I have a family, how should I deal with these circumstances, so that by the time you start, you have that everything, you've thought about majority of the scenario that you're likely to encounter. So that's the key one that I want. The second one is somebody that clearly is organized and have a sense of planning. Somebody who can plan. So it's first and foremost. When you start interacting with a PhD student, I don't know how you guys came to your PhD project, but sometimes we get emails from students asking us if they can work with us, and we start communicating with them. And from there, you can begin to see, how organized somebody is. And it becomes apparent if somebody is just kind of, as we go, just, trying to do things on the fly. You would know very easily. Because effective planning is the most important attribute for a PhD student. If you can't plan, if you're not organized and you can't plan, then your PhD is going to go for a long time, and you're going to give so much problem to your supervisors. The third one is somebody has to be an effective communicator. And we tend to ask people, okay, please, can you write me a one-page, summary of, why you want to do a PhD? The main thing we're looking for there is how succinct can you communicate your thoughts? And that is really very important, not only for a supervisor, but for the success of the student as well.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. Abdullahi, those are very strong and very important qualities that I think, as I mentioned earlier, not only for someone starting a PhD, but for a PhD candidate, these are qualities that you take right to till you after your Viva, and also qualities that people look for in the industry that will definitely help you during your PhD journey. So thanks for that. And the next question for you is, from experience, can you tell us 3 to 4 behaviors you dislike from your PhD students?
Okay, this is again a very important one, because success of a PhD is about managing relationships, not only relationships with your supervisor, but relationships with people around you generally, because you're going to be working with them for 4 to 5 years. But I think looking back, I can say that the students that come to you with, what should I do? What should I do next? Is one of the most frustrating relationship that you can have with the student, when the student comes and tell you, okay, what can I do next? And because it means that the student is coming to you without any thought about the sense of direction. So what supervisors really want from a student is, these are what I'm thinking. These are the directions I'm thinking. let's have a discussion around each one of them. Come up with, and give me some suggestions from your vantage point of view. It means that you've done a lot of work from the beginning before you come to the table for that discussion. And it means that you have a depth of understanding of each of those topics that you can engage the supervisor effectively. So it's not just going to be a one-way conversation, it's going to be a two-way effective conversation. I tend to be slightly kind of flexible with that at a very early stage, but that's one of the first things I try to inculcate in my student is always come to the table with something. Even when planning for get into the PhD, I start by asking, give me a one page of this, give me a one pager on that. Now give me a technical paper, 2 or 3 pages of technical paper on this. Just so that when we're having conversation, I'm having a conversation with you about the you thought about as well, rather than expecting me to say a lot of things.
Right.
The second one, unfortunately, is the flip side of the first one, which is I know all. Okay, somebody who is not receptive to criticism and not willing to think deeply about suggestions that other people are giving them. Okay, we're not saying that PhD is you have to take the comments of everyone, but you have to be critical about the comments of everyone, so that when you criticize, you're coming up with the genuine reasons why ideas are not workable. And if you have a conversation with your supervisors about that, they will understand. But when you come to them with, no, this is not the direction I want to go. This is I have a direction that I want to go, and I can't be, nobody can put me off that direction. It's a very risky proposition because your supervisors often can see 2-3 years down the line, and you can only see a few months down the line. And that's why you always have to be receptive. Never have this feeling of I know everything. If you get ideas that you don't feel comfortable about, go and investigate more, go and do more research, and then come back to the table, and challenge the idea that somebody gave. So that approach of I know it all is very, very risky and dangerous for students. And you won't see it until the third year, and the supervisor will be telling you, well, that's what I told you in the first year, and you didn't listen to me. So, and the third one is lack of planning. When you have a plan, because normally we encourage the students to have a plan, okay, a program of work that they follow. Now, if you are off your plan all the time, it means that you're not planning properly. It means that every time after 3 months, the deliverables that you're supposed to produce, you haven't done it. And then, okay, I'm going to do it in the next month, and then you haven't done it. Then it means that obviously there is a risk that you're going to drain. Sorry, just one final point. Here, in the first and second questions that Khalifa asked, I've never mentioned intelligence, how smart somebody is. It's all about, how you communicate, how you organize, and how you plan. Because intelligence doesn't come into it at all. Well, not zero, but they are not the critical success factor in especially doing a PhD.
Right. Thank you very much. And I think the last point was it's a very important point. I remember having the same advice when I started. Like my supervisor advised that it's very, very important you don't look at intelligence as one of the key qualities that is needed for a PhD. Like it's all those interpersonal skills, and this also this includes the two other factors you mentioned about planning, about actually initiative, actually getting to show, don't just go to your supervisor and say you have no idea where you want to go. At least try something, go with some options, then the supervisor then will see that effort from your end, and then will be able to assist you on way forward. So yeah, I think those are very key important points. So I'm opening the chat section for any questions, and I will be collating the questions as we progress. So if you have any questions, then please feel free to post in the chat section. And Malam Adamu, sorry, I'm going to mute you just so we have clarity on the audio. So thanks, Dr. Abdullahi. So now moving to Dr. Adam. I saw you were smiling on some of the points. So can you share with us some of the biggest challenges you encountered while working with your supervisors, and how many supervisors did you had?
Hello, thank you for the question, Khalifa, and Dr. Abdullahi, thank you for the insights. Very, very comprehensive, and I think they are going to be very helpful to anyone currently in his early stages or about to start. And Khalifa, to clarify your questions, when you're talking about challenges, you mean the challenges of the research itself or the relationship with the supervisor?
So it's going to be the relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
The relationship. Yeah.
Yes. So when I first started my PhD, I had two supervisors initially. Then subsequently, a third joined due to we needed this detailed thing to advise on some aspect of the project which the other two were not of, did not have the appropriate knowledge. So the challenge I had was there was a bit of a tension between the first two supervisors towards the end of my study when we were writing up, because the project was two-pronged. I had an experimental aspect which the first supervisor was overseeing, and the second part which was some numerical simulations which was overseen by the second supervisor. And due to like some problems we encountered during the project, I did not have enough time to do much experiments as initially planned, because the project uh, experiments that we did, we had to construct like a specialized experimental setup, which took a very long time to deliver. So by the time it was delivered, there was not enough time to conduct the whole batch of experiments that were initially planned before submission. So basically, the numerical aspect of the project became the core, which was incidentally driven by the second supervisor. So when I was about writing up and compiling my project, there were some disagreements on some aspects of the numerical part that had to be submitted, what was required to be submitted. There were some parts that I felt were more critical, which my main supervisor supported me. He said, okay, fine, it's my project. I know better than everyone. This is what I feel this is what I want in my thesis. I should go ahead. Well, the second supervisor disagreed with me and kept insisting I had to discard some of what I wanted and input some of what he wanted. I should do.
Right.
So at a point, we had a very, very, very serious, I would say a serious problem, because he actually said, okay, fine, if you don't go by me, I'm not going to sign up on your thesis for submission. And I said, I was very, very respectful and cordial. I did not disrespect him, but I maintained that fine, this is my project and I know this is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
For almost 4 weeks, the project was just on pause, no way forward. Then finally, the third supervisor, who was a professor and more senior to the two other supervisors, called us onto the table and we reached a compromise. And he apologized to me for the way he reacted. But
Right.
one thing I just got out of that was, even in all our disagreements, I was not in any way disrespectful towards him.
Right.
I was I did my best to pass across my views and my points, but I always maintained that respect for him. But I did not compromise on flexibility.
Right. I can see you have another challenge now, so
Yes,
we'll
I
give you some time to.
have so sorry,
that's
everyone.
that's right. That's
Okay,
right.
while Adam is trying to sort out
Yeah. Okay.
the challenge, but it's not a
Yeah.
challenge. I think it's one of those critical elements that Adam mentioned. I think they are very important. That the way you respond to circumstances and situations like that, I think, is very, very critical, because
Yeah.
you're going to have a longer term relationship, and the resolution to the problem will be dictated by the way that you respond. So
Yes.
all the time, don't be angry or respond in a disrespectful way. If you do that in a good way, then it will be easier to have a resolution after. If you
Yeah.
respond in anger, then finding a solution in the future will be extremely challenging and difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So basically, that was the major challenge I faced uh, dealing with my two supervisors.
Right.
But in the end, we reached a compromise,
Mm.
and I still have very good relationship with both of them. I
Right.
never allowed any disagreements to sour any relationship, because right from the one I realized it's my project, so I know it better than they do. They have probably more experience than they do, but when you're doing a PhD, there's no one that knows your project better than you do. But you should always be open to input, and you can't know it all, but you always have to be assertive and stand your ground.
Right.
Thank you, Melissa.
Right. Thank you very much for the experience, and also the way you actually uh, uh, like find a way to come to a solution, and basically uh, applied, as you said, like attitude towards the whole situation, and not allow like any negativity to make it like more complicated and difficult. So attitude towards resolving issues like this, I think, is very critical, because as a PhD student, you are, well, I think that's one of the cool things you get to do, is to start like you get to do a lot of how will I say, you get challenged a lot, and it's part of the process, and your attitude is very, very important towards how uh, you you discuss your opinion, and you reason with the feedback given to you, and the person as well. I think that's very, very important, which is one of the points that Dr. Abdullahi also mentioned about being receptive to criticism,
Certainly.
and yeah, but having that balance is very important for a PhD. Yeah, yeah, and thanks, Dr. Abdullahi, also for adding to that point. So the next question for you, Adam, is there anything, any advice that you wish you were given at the early point or during your PhD? That something you know now that you wish you knew during your PhD, that would have made something easier for you? Oops.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I
All right. I think we can come back to you in
No,
a
no, no,
few
it's fine.
minutes. That's fine,
It's
Mama. All right.
fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
sorry.
Right. She wants to join the meeting.
Hello, sir.
Right.
So
It's good for her to also. Right.
the
Mm,
primary thing I believe, if I would rewind time, is
right.
at the beginning of my PhD.
Right.
You know, when you start, particularly most of us coming from Africa, Nigeria, things like that, we have a certain way we relate with our lecturers,
Right.
where you're the boss, I'm the student. We don't argue. We expect to just get orders.
Mm,
But I would say maybe the first 6 months of my PhD, I was a bit like that. I wouldn't always argue my points. Sometimes, even if I had something I absolutely believed in, just maybe because I think, okay, if I argue with my supervisor, they might be upset. I would also always say, okay, fine, this is what you think. And even if I had a better point, I would agree. Which subsequently down the line, they might come and rely on what I had earlier suggested in our
right.
discussion. Then I realized, okay, you have to always put across your points, believe in what you know,
Right.
not always say, okay, you're the boss, I'm not going to argue with you. Because the relationship between a supervisor and a PhD is not like a lecturer and a student at it or
Right.
the master's level. It's more of a collaborative thing.
Mm,
So you have to be more assertive in your own thoughts and ideas. And then, secondly, in terms of planning, I cannot ever overemphasize about planning. Always stick to your deadlines. Do not procrastinate. Don't think like Dr. Abdullahi said, okay, I'm going to deliver this in 3 months. And after 3 months, be like, okay, I'll take it to the next month. No, 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 no. Always stick to your date. Because, okay, we do know sometimes we have like problems that pop up, that research is very, very dynamic. Sometimes things change, which are absolutely outside of our control. But as much as possible, you need to just stick with your deadlines, plan carefully.
mm,
Yeah. Then another thing I tend to, I would say, if I would rewind, I would do it better. Sometimes I wait for my supervisors
right.
when I don't like chase them up. Sometimes you give them something to review. They have other responsibilities. They just don't supervise you. They tutor other students. They supervise undergraduate. They supervise master students. So at times you have to be very, very proactive in terms of your relationship. You have to keep on reminding them. Sometimes in my initial stages, I would send across a write-up to my supervisors, and sometimes it would take 4 weeks. Even though we usually had a weekly meeting with my main supervisor and my second supervisor, we had uh, meetings every 2 weeks. But sometimes I wouldn't even remind them over during the meetings because I would think actually they're not kids, so they're actually aware of they're supposed to get feedback to me. But sometimes you have to be proactive. Drop that email politely, drop a text message if you have that relationship. At the meeting, remind them, please, can I get feedback on that thing I sent you? You just have to be proactive in your relationship. You just don't have to wait. Because if you do wait, they have 1,001 things on their mind, and you'll be the ones that will suffer in the end.
Right.
Thank you. I think I'll.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I think those are very, very important points. And talking about planning and deadline, meeting deadlines, I think, yes, planning, as also Dr. Lai mentioned, is critical. Have to plan and you have to uh, make sure you keep to your deadlines, make sure you meet your deadlines, and well, be an effective communicator at the same time, because sometimes things happen that you don't have control over, but if you communicate very early on time, then it's always easier basically to have that timely communication with your supervisor and let them know basically what's happening. I think one of the things to add, I used to be a deadline person. So some of you know I'm a deadline person, but I think one of the things that I think the most important thing is to as like it would be more annoying if like you change plans at the last minute, if you compare to changing plans well in advance. So if you're a very good planner, you should always have that space for unforeseens,
Yes.
and then that way you have enough window to give people notice. And you have to consider that also some other people that you're working with will have their plan, uh, like they will have dependencies with your plans as well. So for example, your supervisor might cancel his trip just to help you sort out your paper, and then at the last minute you fail to meet the deadline, then that is going to be chaotic compared to if you give him uh, and enough time to also change his plan accordingly. So it's okay if things don't go as planned, but the most important thing is for you to have that plan in the first place and make sure you have that timely communication. So thank you, Adam. And do we have Dr. Lai, do you have anything to add regarding when like students send you emails and you are very busy, you didn't reply them? Do you uh, have any comments around that?
I think it's a very important point, and one of the points that I wanted to mention about successful PhD student is that they are persistent. As Adam rightly pointed out, first you have to know who your supervisor is, okay, and what other responsibilities they have. And I had students that actually map out the times that they know I am in the office. Right? So they know in a day, in a day, they know the time that I'm in my office. So they know when to reach out to me if it is for a short conversation. They know how to follow up. They give me a piece of work. They're not just going to rely on the fact that I'm going to read it in the next week. They will send me a calendar item in to my email, so that it's in my calendar to remember that I promised to give them feedback on a such on so date. Things like that. You're not just giving the word, because let me tell you the honest truth is, PhD student is just a bit of a nuisance to supervisors. Okay? I'm sorry. That's the honest truth. And the more proactive you are, the more you show me how important your timeline is. Okay? Because I have so many other things in the queue, and there is a little bit of a feeling of, okay, if they're not asking me, maybe it's not that important anymore. So don't feel that you can't ask the question. I've had worst cases where somebody didn't get feedback in 6 months or something like that. That's extraordinarily bad, and you're paying for that service. So be proactive. Know your supervisors. Know their timelines. The periods that they're less busy, and so on. Try to plan ahead. Give them enough time to give you, because what I hate to do is to just read something and give some typographical error and mistakes, corrections to students. I want to give an in-depth view of the whole piece of work. And sometimes supervisors can just to get rid of you may just write you grammatical mistake. But I tell my supervisor, I remember a long time ago, at a point I told my supervisor, I don't want any spelling and grammatical corrections in my work. I want really insightful comments about the work itself, because I'm gonna get a professional reader. That way I'm saying just concentrate on giving me more insightful comments than something that obviously, I can get even my colleagues, PhD students, to read my work and give me some grammatical corrections and spelling. The second and very important aspect, and I got to know it a couple of months into my PhD, that when my supervisor, a very nice guy, really, really nice guy, and he doesn't want to upset me. And when he criticized my work, it takes me a long time to realize that it was a criticism, right? So they write in a way that, in order not to hurt your feelings,
Right.
they write, they give you feedback in a way that is really vague, but when you think about it deeply, you realize, oh, no, actually a criticism, not a positive comment. But then I had to go back to him at some point and say, look, I just need to be absolutely crystal clear, because sometimes I'm in a bit of a muddle to understand. So be open and make sure that your supervisor knows exactly the kind of person you are. They think that you're somebody who, when they get a negative comment, they will throw a tantrum. Then they won't be open-minded about actually criticizing you openly or criticizing your work. So be open. Don't tell them, please give it to me straight or something.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's very, very important. Know your supervisor. That's very important, because I'm sure supervisors also know their students. So it's a two-way thing. People get to, over time, you get to start learning about behaviors. For example, I know my supervisor is a Liverpool football fan. So for meetings, I target the dates when Liverpool are winning games. So that he'll be in a good mood, and to be a good mood. So I think that is very, very important. Know your supervisor, and give your supervisor that good impression that you are a person that looks at criticism as a very good thing for you to help develop and build your PhD project. And one of the things I think sometimes that we tend to forget during our PhD journey is you feel like it's you against your supervisor. You actually realize that's not the case when after your PhD, when you come to do your viva or when you publish papers outside. You realize it's actually you and your supervisor are a team, and it's you against people outside, and you against basically you as a team trying to prove that your work is worthy of a PhD. So you're always a team, and I think the earlier you realize that, I think the easier your journey will be, because then you look at his criticism as help. To be honest, when during my PhD, when I get feedback from my supervisor without like, I really look forward to that red comments, because that shows me that, okay, he has really read this and he has interest in what I've shared with him. And in times when I don't get feedback, I always ask him in meetings, are you sure we're fine? Are you sure? And so I think it's good to give that impression to your supervisor that you are open to that feedback from him, and that of him or her, and that that will help you along the way. And when you send out papers, Abdullahi highlighted, some supervisors will try to be very nice to you. I remember one of our first papers was, I think, to a journal in the US. They were the language they used, and the way that their comment was, it was clear, like what is this, so they were like, it's criticism, but some people don't know how to put criticism in a way that doesn't feel like they're how will I say, like insulting or something like that. So as a PhD student, I think those are the qualities, and that's why we keep on saying it's not about the intelligence. It's all about those interpersonal skills that you build during journey, and how you apply that to react to situations. Because as a PhD student, you're going to be punched in all directions, but it's all comes down to how you react and how you actually use those punches to make yourself and make your project better as well. So yeah, thank you very much for those very important points. And I think that's Tabla. I had a question for you around the qualities of your most successful PhD students. Though you have already highlighted most of the points, but if you have anything to add around, is there any pattern you see in all your PhD students that are successful? Do you see
Yeah,
anything like similar? Right,
I think it's resilience.
right,
They they get knocked back and they get up again. They get
right,
knocked back, and you see them working again. And okay, when can we meet again? And you know, they have a setback, and they are not defeated. That attitude, that resilient attitude, is really important. That
right,
especially at the stage that final stages of your PhD, when you get burnout. You need to be resilient. That's the point when you need to kind of draw in all the reserve that you have, to keep going, because it's very extremely frustrating time. So I see a lot of these students that don't give up and don't get knocked back, or whenever they get knocked back, they stand up again and they keep going. So that's the key attribute, to get to the end of your PhD. The students that are successful as well are increasingly open-minded. They are always kind of open to new ideas. They're inquisitive. They always, challenge the same premise. And they're open-minded about, criticizing their direction, as well as, their ideas. They are firm. Okay, they come to the
right,
point when they say, I've looked at all of these. I'm open-minded, about ideas. I've looked at all different permutations of these ideas, but this is my direction. This is the direction that I want to go. Especially, mid to late stage. Actually, your supervisors are looking for that, and they are really frustrated when you don't show that level of, uh, sense of direction, sense of ownership of the work. So it's really important, to be firm at some point by saying, yes, I've considered all of these options that you've given me, that we've discussed. In fact, discussed with this famous professor, so and so, which means you're telling the supervisor, look, I'm not only relying on you now, I'm talking to people probably that are even more experienced than you, or better than you in some way. Well, you're not saying that, obviously, but just by telling them that you're in touch with some famous professors, you've had this sort of conversations, you're telling them that, look, I am now a big boy, I'm talking to big boys like you do, and I'm really at the cusp of becoming an independent researcher. And it's a proud moment for any good supervisor. That's the moment they're looking for. That this guy is now whole, and this student is now becoming an independent, to the stage where I can trust wholeheartedly their judgment, because they are not just making decisions, they are looking at it from so many different directions. They're taking my comments, and sometimes they are knocking it back. And it's really important at that stage, especially towards the middle stage of your PhD, to be showing this level of dynamism in your approach to
right.
your decision making, and to your.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Those are another very important points.
Yeah,
Uh,
perfect.
point actually keeps ringing bells.
Yeah, I still remember right from my very first few months, my supervisor always reiterated and hammered it down my throat. This is your PhD. You have to own it. It's nobody's PhD. You have to own it. You can listen to us, take our viewpoint, but you always have to put across your viewpoint because it's your PhD. Nobody else, other person's PhD. He always says that right from the first few months. So you have to be really sure of what you're doing and stick to your guns. I think it's very, very important.
Absolutely. So yes, very, very important. Any questions so far? Right. I think one of the points I highlighted is trusting judgment. I think it's very important for you as a PhD student to give your supervisor as many reasons as you can for him or her to trust you. To trust that you can be independent. You can basically, because the whole idea, in my opinion, the whole idea is when you come towards, especially towards the end of the PhD, your supervisor would like to have that feeling that okay, this guy is ready, or
Yes.
you are ready. Basically, he supervisors. Well, Dr. Abdullah is here. You can. I don't know, like my supervisor, like. When I was working with my supervisor, I used to go for like when I go for conferences. I'm sure most of you have gone for conferences. He like he likes whenever I come back from conferences when I'm able to basically represent him in a conference. He likes that feeling of okay, I can go and relax, and Ali will actually do justice to this work. Share our paper, for example, with anyone. So I think that is very, very important, especially towards the end because it's not like I don't want to use the word product, but your supervisor also like to have that like as a doctor when you finish, he's expected like well everybody expects that you're going to be a supervisor as well. So it's if any good person or any good supervisor will not allow you to go unless they are confident that they can trust you with somebody else, basically. So they're giving you license. They're basically giving you license. It's just like medical license. You won't have medical license until they're sure that you can operate as a medical doctor. So I think it's a similar feeling that some supervisors might have to say, okay, you have to show me that level of ownership of work understanding and your attitudes and your work as like showing that you can actually do things. You're very initiative. You can plan the meetings yourself. Don't just wait for him. Always be planning the meetings. If you don't hear back, you check on him. If there are any findings you get, share with him and things. And another one of the things I also want to add in that regard, which I remembered regarding conferences, is networking. Some supervisors really like it when you come back. I think Dr. Abdullahi mentioned when you start basically communicating with other people in the work in the area. You can always come back to him and say, I met this professor in this place that is working on a very similar project to what we're doing. We had this very interesting conversation about this, and this is his view. So in that way, you bring that other person in the cycle. And the reason why I brought this up is my PhD, my Viva examiner, my PhD examiner was actually a person that I found myself. So I linked them up with my supervisor. I met him during a conference and we had a conversation, very interesting conversation. I told my supervisor, oh, I met Professor Fion from this university. he challenged us. Like my supervisor was like, okay, what's this point? So we had a very like good conversation, and he liked at the end they became like they became connected and start actually working on another big project. And he found him as one of like he found him suitable for to be my examiner, because like he has already had the background on the work. So you have to do a lot of work yourself as a PhD student, and make it easier for you and your supervisor, basically. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to add on that. And I think we do have a question, uh,
Yeah.
right, from, okay, I don't have to say name, but right. So what if you've got the topic? Yes, if you smile, everybody will know it's you. But that's, that's fine. So what if you've got the topic from the supervisor? How do you get on? What is expected from the student from the onset? So, Abdullah, any comment? What if you got
Yeah,
the topic from the supervisor?
you know, I there are advantages and disadvantages, but either way, I think you can manage. You can manage it. One is that process of developing your topic, and going through the hard work of, getting to final sort of research questions, aim and objectives, methodology, is in itself a trait that will be very useful, you know, in your career, in your academic career, or in other career in the future. But if in cases where you go for a published, PhD advertisement, and you're successful and people have already a very defined, one thing I would really strongly encourage is you need to work really hard, really quickly to study up very much on the area, and provide some positive or to input into shaping the idea at a very early stage. Because don't feel that in the end, still, even though the PhD is funded by the university, it's still your PhD. It's still your product. The output of that PhD is still yours, your PhD, and it will be in your name. So I will really strongly recommend that you study up really quickly, do a lot of research, do your literature review, and then come to the table with your supervisor by saying, look, I want us to discuss this so that we can, make some adjustments. Or I feel, having studied, that we could maybe make some adjustments here and there. But when you move on, you're moving on a platform that you find acceptable as well. Because in the end, I think I say this all the time: don't do a PhD if you don't like what you're doing, if you don't like the topic area, because what drags you to the end is not necessarily your desire for a PhD, it's your enthusiasm for the subject matter. I think the PhD is also a driver, but that enthusiasm to keep going is sometimes about the subject area and your interest in that subject area. So make sure that you shape it in a way that, of course, you can't change it fundamentally, but you can make some changes on the edges to make it a bit more comfortable for you as well, to drive it further.
Right. Yeah, that's a very very good advice. And another quick one to add to that is I also had my topic from my supervisor, and one of the things they would like to see initially, especially at the initial stage, is your own work towards understanding that topic.
Yeah.
So you have to demonstrate that yes, you have actually done some work around understanding the topic, because it's he has helped by formulating the topic, the initial idea, but it's your topic. You're going to carry it on, and you're going to do a lot of things. And I think as Zainab mentioned, she had also the same, like she had a topic from her supervisor and then changed it along the way. So the most important thing is you're going to own it, whether it's your topic initially or your supervisors, because at some point your supervisor is not doing the whole work. It's just the topic and initial idea. So you have to go through the actual work. So yeah, those are very important. Sorry, Adam, I think you're on mute. Are you trying to say something? Sorry, I muted.
Yes, I said to add to that, where you said getting a topic, but you have to amend it to suit your own thoughts and ideas. Similar to Zainab, I also got my topic from my supervisor, but after the first few months of literature review, bringing out the research section, I realized the initial idea of what he envisioned was not something that was exactly feasible because we did not have the resources, lab equipment, and stuff to proceed with that. And in the course of my research, I found a very, very interesting area, which was in the same general area of research, but it was slightly different from what he had initially proposed. So I brought some of his ideas and I merged them with what I had discovered and I presented it to him. That was like 3 months into my PhD. And I said, I think this is the direction I want to go. And these are my reasons. And he actually agreed with me after I brought out all the points I had for proposing a new direction. So I think those are some of the things you can take on as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam, for adding that. Right. So it's 5 o'clock, and I think if we don't have any questions, so right now I'll use this time to thank Dr. Abdullahi and Dr. Adam for joining us and sharing this very, very important points and their experience around working as a supervisor and as well as working with supervisors. And thank you all for joining and also for your points. And hopefully we arrange some sessions. Just before we go, may I ask if we just drop messages if would like to see any topics discussed around PhD in the future. But if there are not any other points, then I'll draw the call to a close. Thank you all for joining, and hopefully speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and apologies for the interruptions.
Oh, sorry. No, that's absolutely fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you, guys. We have a new PhD student soon.
Yes, we do.
And Khalifa, maybe you can drop the Nurture Roots email for anyone that needs more information. They can contact the Nurture Roots email if we can help in any way.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to share the link to the website.
So you can contact us if you have any other things you need to know.
Maybe next session we can do something on that write-up because we asked a question.
We haven't write-up. That's right.
That's a very important stage. So hopefully next time we can do.
Right. Is there anyone doing write-up wants to? I'm sorry. Do you have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Anyone wants to add something, or we organize another session, right? Or if anyone has any question.
Okay. If there is question, that's great. If not, then just a few points. I think, especially. Sorry, I'll just wait first in case there are questions.
Is there anyone writing up? Let me make sure no supervisors have joined. Oh, yeah. So we have Fatima is writing. So any advice for Fatima regarding writing up?
I think the challenge are twofold. I think right now with the fact that you're doing writing up alone, because during that write-up period is when a lot of students tend to be a little bit more outgoing in terms of attending conferences, which means that you're at a point where you're generating results, where you can write papers and so on. With COVID-19, I think all of that is now becoming a little bit more difficult. Now, because we say write up, but a lot of people do write up and analysis and discussion at the same time. And to me, that's one of the most critical periods of your PhD, because you've done all the hard work, but the write-up is what people see. They don't see all your effort, they don't see all your lab work, they don't see all your models, they don't see anything, they just see what you've written about it. So you often have to write as a marketing person, in that if you don't sell the best bits of your PhD, then people will not see it. And honestly, I'm saying this because over the last years that I've examined PhDs, that I've chaired examinations, one common mistake that I see with PhDs, with PhD write-ups, is that sometimes PhD students are expecting the examiners to deduce the good bits of their work. It's not that explicitly clear. When you talk to people, during the examination, when you ask questions, you have very good conversations with people. And then at the end of it, I will say, well, where is this in your work? Where did you write all of these brilliant things that you're telling me? Where is it in your PhD? And often it's not. So the write-up of your PhD is the most critical part of it. And you must make sure that you say exactly what you want to say. And I have to say, because I think we are all, I suspect we're all Nigerians here, and it doesn't matter even if we are not, but sometimes we tend to be modest. A lot of us tend to be very, very modest in the way that we talk about things, that we touch the edges, and we don't want to go full blown in saying exactly what we're doing for fear of not seeming, to be overblowing what you've done. No. You have to write it in a way that highlights very clearly the significance of your work. That has to come very, very clearly. That has to show which part of the academic community you're making a contribution to. That has to be very clear, and that contribution has to be very clear as well. And the significance of the work, that's the other thing that often tend to get maybe not given so much time within the PhD, because you're burned out at this stage. You just want to get it out of the way and go. Please, please, please make sure that you don't rush your write-up. Okay? Make sure that you write your work in a way that you captured all the key contributions that you've made, that you're not leaving anything. On the flip side of it, don't spend inordinate amount of time making minor corrections. Okay? So long as the core of your contribution to knowledge is clear and is established, and you can, articulate it clearly, then I don't want you to spend too much time, wasting too much time on grammar and spelling. Yes, your thesis has to be presented very well, but examiners will always find something. Okay. So if you leave them with some, but don't submit. That's the core argument. I've had arguments where I told students you can't submit. No matter what you say to me, that you cannot submit because of one reason and one reason only. I will never tell a student not to submit their work unless and until I'm not confident that their contribution to knowledge has been articulated in a very transparent way, that you presented the thesis in a very transparent and auditable way, so that when you get to that contribution to knowledge, everybody that reads it will go back to the work and trace back to how you've established that. Because the reason sometimes is that some people establish contribution to knowledge, and then when you go back through the thread, and I'm going to tell you now, the majority of people read your conclusion first. and then they go back and find the evidence of how you reach those conclusions. Okay. Some people read the introduction chapter that says, this is what I want to do, my research questions, aim and objectives, and go straight to your conclusion and read how you've achieved them, you know, and what contribution to knowledge you've made, and then go back through the work, you know, to see how that has been achieved. So that needs to be very, and please, sorry, Fatima, go ahead.
No, just finish first, so that I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, please, there are some minor comments that supervisors may give that I feel sometimes, because, for example, after PhD examination, we listen to, we have conversations with the examiners and the supervisors, and often most supervisors will tell us that we told them to do this, but they haven't done it. But trust me, most of the time, when during your write-up, when your supervisors tell you exactly, you know, okay, this needs to correct that, please listen to them. It's really, really critical, really important. Sorry, I know we don't have enough time. So I don't want to go on too much. Okay.
That's very useful. Yeah, Fatima, please.
Right.
You can unmute.
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's actually a wake-up call, because personally, I underestimated the amount of the mental resource actually, or mental energy required to write the thesis, because I think the fact that I had the work, I underestimated how much it would take for me, you know, to put everything together. And unfortunately, with the current situation, everything seemed to be quite I don't know, hectic in a way. I mean, I am making progress. My supervisor is confident, but what all the things that you said actually is it's eye-opening. So thank you very much, and I think it's going to help me, you know, with the write-up. So thank you.
Please don't burn out. And because honestly, even us that work, we tend to work too much now during lockdown because we're working at home. I find myself working until 8 p.m. Please, you know, have a plan. You know, just try and make sure you take breaks. Otherwise, your brain will start freezing. You know?
That is true. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. So thank you, everyone. I think probably our next session should be more around writing and Viva advice. I think hopefully so we give justice to the topic, because we haven't. But yeah, that was very, very very important advice. Thank you, Dr. Abdullahi. So yeah, I think we can call it a day then. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining, and speak to you in our next session. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Everyone. Bye.